Sam, one of the biggest billionaires in the world, just a couple days ago is now worth $3. That's his problem. We have questions we need answered. What did he do with everybody's money? What are all these political connections? And what are we not being told? So what this video won't do is it won't make any false claims about FTX, won't make any false claims about Sam Bankman-Fried. What this video will cover is the rug pull event prediction caused by the eclipses, what happened with FTX, and what this means for crypto and the larger financial markets. But we have a problem. This guy, Sam, for some reason, has spent more time with American politicians in Washington, D.C., and has more connections in politics than anybody else in crypto. Regulations are coming, and we still don't know who this guy is. And he had a big part to do with those regulations. So what we're gonna do...
So first we have to decide how much do we want to find out.
So we're gonna find out. We're gonna take all the political connections they aren't telling you about.
If there's ever a place I could be that I'm not going to get in trouble, it's going to be at FTX.
We're going to look at what happened in the crypto markets with FTX and look at it all through the energy of the moment. So let's dive into it. I'm telling you now, it looks really bad.
November, you said.
The end of October going into November. That's when charts look like, to me, like there might be what in the crypto world they call a rug pull event. It's basically you look at your account and it's zero because someone pulled out all the money. The rug pull prediction and the prediction that this will be the most sensitive time in the markets has been satisfied. The UK lost almost 70% of the pensions in a market emergency, and they had to jump in and print money when they promised that they weren't going to. But for crypto users, billions upon billions upon billions of dollars are gone.
Like I was saying, it's FTX. It's a safe and easy way to get into crypto.
I don't think so. And I'm never wrong about this stuff. Never.
The predictions have been met. The rug has been pulled out from underneath people. Doesn't mean it can't get worse from here. It just means they don't have to get worse because the thing has already happened. The rug has been pulled. This is not a prediction that you need to wait around for. It's been happening, and it will actually continue to happen. So there's been two financial charts I've kept a close eye on that have been very important. One is the US 10-year Treasury, and the other is the dollar. And both of them have broken what we call in technical analysis some very important trends, basically. And that's because inflation's reversing. So people are a bit excited right now. They're happy to get into the market. They think that the worst of things are over. Tech stocks will be bouncing around only because of how much they've fallen. They're not going to go back to all-time highs. So if you don't know what I mean about any of that stuff, don't worry about it. Basically, from a technical perspective, not astrology, just purely technical, there's been a lot of sellers all year long. The market has just been sold too much, and now there's more optimism coming into play because inflation, for once, is lower than predicted. It's still high. Doesn't mean the economy's better. It just means that most of the sellers have sold for now, right? It looks like, from a technical perspective, that the stock market has had its sell-off mid-October on the full moon on the 13th, and that crypto had it on the blood moon eclipse in November. Now, those might be the exact bottoms. They also might not. Personally, I'm only speaking personally now, I don't want to be exposed to any financial market after the end of February until the end of October. Recorded January 1st, New Year's Day, uploaded a day later, 35 minutes and 32 seconds in. My work tells me when I combine technicals with financial astrology that things are going to be sensitive until mid-December. Even though people are excited about inflation, here's the key that some don't quite understand. The US Federal Reserve and the US Treasury, they're both pulling money out of the system. They're draining it of liquidity, if you know what that means. And they've committed to do that all through the rest of the year. So you have algorithms buying and people excited that are buying because Inflation looks like it's starting to get better, which I told you it would. We'll see inflation come down. But the big boys and the big girls with the big pocketbooks, they're pulling money out of the market for the rest of the year. So with this combination of factors, expect chop, up and down, sideways movements, some up, some down, till about January. Right? We're not just shooting up to all-time highs right now. It's not going to happen. Whether or not the bottom of the markets are in or not, the predictions have been satisfied. Whether you choose to buy right now or wait for the sensitivity of the markets to pass over that I'm describing over the next few weeks or so, that's up to you, because none of this is financial advice. So let's talk about Sam Bankman-Fried and what happened in crypto. The bottom line is we have to talk about the eclipses. Some astrologers say they aren't really that important when it comes to financial astrology, but they are when they fall on the axis of Taurus and Scorpio. And that's what these two eclipses did. Eclipses tend to represent karmic events that just pop to the surface in ways we might not expect. And when they're aspected by a planet like Uranus, which represents shocking events, disruptions, sudden instability, then the events that eclipse will trigger will become even more unpredictable, more shocking. And if that eclipse is a blood moon eclipse, well then all the more, even more unpredictable. Now, I have to be clear and admit, I wish I knew the prediction was going to be about FTX in particular. You might want to have some money outside of the banking system, maybe in cash, in a safe place that you can access and touch your money. Taurus, in your hand, touch. I'm obviously only human. If I knew, I would have warned you that the rug pull would be in crypto with this company. Why this is so shocking is this is one of the most trusted names and most trusted companies in all of crypto. So Sam became one of the world's youngest billionaires in the world by growing a crypto exchange known as FTX from $0 to $30 billion in just 3 years. Sam also recently tried to raise $1 billion in cash on October 25th. You know what else happened on the 25th? A solar eclipse with the South Node, which represents losses, in the sign of Scorpio, which can trigger a financial or life crisis, exactly on the same day. In just 2 weeks from that new moon eclipse on the 25th of October, on one end of the financial axis in Scorpio, to a full blood moon eclipse on November 8th on the other end of the financial axis in the sign of Taurus, in about 2 weeks, Sam's last attempt to raise money exposed him. Why does the darling of the crypto industry all of a sudden need $1 billion? So Sam got called out. He got called out by the CEO of Binance, the biggest exchange in crypto.
What do you mean the bank is out of money? Insolvent? You only have enough cash for the next 3 customers? Hey,
just a second here. No, I don't have your money here. It's in Bill's house and Fred's house.
Hey, what the hell are you doing with my money in your house, Fred?
CZ, the owner of Binance, says, I'm not going to pretend to be your friend anymore when you're lobbying in Washington, D.C. against me and everybody else in the crypto industry. F you, dude. I'm not going to make love after divorce, he says. So Sam responds and says, we're being attacked by a competitor. This is BS. And everyone's looking into it.
24 hours later.
Next thing you know, Sam's like, hey guys, I'm selling the company to Binance. It's all for your benefit. And that's when, yeah.
See, as you can see, the more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
They lied about using customer money to give out loans. Sam and his company manipulated and pumped the price of his company's cryptocurrency while stealing the wealth of its platform's users. Yes, that's exactly what governments do to us all across the world currently. But, you know, they have guns. So their financial system, although not great, we have more trust in their system than anything else, at least for now. Please understand, I've mentioned this in other videos, crypto is undergoing an innovation cycle that mirrors the dot-com crash. And Sam is basically the new Bernie Madoff. So I retweeted this on Twitter. I got a kick out of this, you know, Enron being something that I compared the situation to. They're a trading company as well, manipulating commodities, electricity, right? So that these are things ruled by Uranus, commodities, things that are related to Taurus as well. They call themselves a system for traders, designed by traders. And so does FTX, word for word. Are they trying to make this a callback to Enron on purpose so that this blow up really damages crypto? Is that just my mind making unnecessary connections? Who knows? But I got a kick out of it. Astro.com's got some info on Enron, Scorpio rising company, same sign as the eclipse that took place on the 25th in October. What's interesting about the story of Enron is the biography. And as I go through this, I just want you to keep in mind some of the parallels between this and the story that's happening right now. Considered a stable risk for investors, but there were rumors that the stability wasn't entirely credible, right? And it led as high as the White House. The employees contributed to that campaign at that time, and they added last-minute provisions to energy policy that was helpful to Enron. Sound familiar? This letter to George Bush is interesting, again, because of these political ties. People on the payroll. Chief economic advisor to George Bush was a former advisor at Enron. The Treasury Secretary, former CEO whose lobbying firm, number 3 contributor to his campaign. Law firm representing Enron, top polluter in Texas, Secretary of the Army, former vice chair of Enron Energy. This is about conflicts of interests. And then, of course, this is the big one for me. The aforementioned Mr. Pitt, the former attorney whose job it is now as SEC head to oversee the stock markets. Same, not quite the same because this is crypto, but it's basically the same damn thing with Gary Gensler and Sam Bankman. Now we got to talk about the SEC and the U.S. government and Sam's connection with them all. Because again, I'm just going to list facts here and let you fill in the blanks. I'm not trying to create a conspiracy here, but where there's smoke, there's fire. And when something's rotten, you know, it tends to stink. And these facts that I'm about to share with you. And Sam hated decentralized finance. That's point number 1. We're going to come back to that in a little bit. So, I don't care what people do in their bedrooms, okay? After thousands of readings, I've heard it all. I don't care. But this information is actually relevant to the story. Caroline, this girl that Sam was, you know, Sam put her in charge of trading.
Yeah, absolutely could pull it off without my math degree. Use very little math. Use a lot of like elementary school math. Being comfortable with risk is very important. We tend not to have things like stop losses. I think those aren't necessarily a great risk management tool. I'm trying to think of a good example of a trade where I've lost a ton of money. Well, I don't know. I probably don't want to go into specifics too much with that.
No risk management. No risk management. What's her connection to the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, the people who are clamping down on crypto for the past 2 years? What's her connection with them? Well, Caroline's dad was the head of the SEC's boss at MIT. The guy who's ultimately going to decide the fate of crypto in the US is buddy with that girl's dad. That's just point number 1. The legal general counsel of FTX used to report directly to Gary Gensler as lead counsel Gary was listening to what these people were telling him. Well, I'm sorry, you fill in the blanks. Oh, by the way, have you ever heard of a conditional no action relief? This is where the SEC determines that technically you're breaking the law. You're breaking the rules. You're doing some illegal stuff. But there's some specific conditions and circumstances, Don't worry about it, homie. We promise we won't come after you. I'll even make it legal for you. You know what? I'll sign this into a document. And you're going to need this document because what you're doing is illegal. But now that you've got this, you're good. Conditional no action relief. These are meeting notes from the SEC. Like, see that link up there? This is their actual website. This isn't a document I made up. And these are their meeting minutes. On March 23rd of 2022, members of the staff of Gary Gensler met with FTX to discuss custody of digital asset securities, aka holding on to your money, including the unique risks associated with custody of your money and the conditional no action relief discussed in the statement. I wish I could see the statement. But this is implying that Gary Gensler and his people met with Sam and Sam's general counsel and the head of policy and regulatory strategy to discuss a conditional no action relief based on holding your assets. It's a clear as day conflict of interest, and Gary Gensler needs to recuse himself from all crypto decisions for America immediately. Sam Bankman was basically running around saying, me right? We still cool. All right. Yeah, bust them over there. I'll buy them out, buy them too. They're crooked. Gary, I'm still stealing. Is that okay? Look, governments are already heavy-handed. We've seen it really ramp up with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in 2020, right? You don't need to be an astrologer to predict that there's going to be some sort of regulation coming. Whether or not those regulations affect crypto's ability to grow is what's at question here. And I'm just going to cut to the chase and tell you what I see with the astrology, with the facts. There's going to be some misunderstandings that likely are going to be unfortunate. Might be a problem here is about decentralization. Bitcoin and cryptocurrency markets are not the same thing. Bitcoin purists actually get pretty upset when you consider them the same. They actually think that all the other cryptos are a Ponzi scheme. And in light of the past few weeks' events, you can kind of see why. But what is decentralization? What is Bitcoin trying to do? Well, you got to understand what centralization is. So to decentralize is to move away from something that's centralized. This is about moving away from one point, one source of failure, like what happened with FTX. What happened with FTX is the same thing that's happened with Enron, and on a larger scale speaks to the same risk that any of the central banks or governments, as humans, is that single point of failure. Bitcoin is a response to what happened in the 2008 crisis. It's rejecting money printing, and it's giving financial power to the people. At least that's the idea of it, right? Poor people in countries whose currencies have been completely destroyed by inflation, they use Bitcoin. And that's what this Aquarian age is about. It's about moving away from these top-down structures that we've relied on to something that's dispersed, horizontal, and more like a web-like network that doesn't have a single point of failure. You bring down one point in the web is still connected. And that is the opposite polarity of what we've been experiencing. Centralization versus decentralization. This is an axis in astrology related to Aquarius and Leo, where in Leo, the energy we're used to is that single point, right? That's the king. That's that one person who issues a command and everyone either loves that person and everything is going great, or they hate that person, they're issuing commands and they're a tyrant, right? And it either goes really well or it goes really bad. And when it's really bad, they ruin everything for everybody. FTX, Celsius, Voyager, all those centralized exchanges or an example of what happens when that singular point goes bad and it affects the lives of many. And what's really sad is this guy who ran FTX, he spent a lot of money lobbying, talking to regulators in the United States to move policy away from decentralized forms of finance so that centralized companies like his, pretty much only his, would get stronger and create a monopoly. The problem is that Aquarian things usually are ahead of the curve. They're hard to understand. They're way too complex to just have your grandma just hop into it, right? To just navigate it properly and keep her money safe without the risk of being hacked or duped or scammed. And these companies, these centralized companies like Celsius, Voyager, FTX, all of them, they were trusted to make that adoption process go better. See, like right now, for example, in the middle of that time period I told you would be the most sensitive for the markets. And yet, this is yet another example of why it's so hard to actually buy the bottom. Quite literally, the on-ramps that many people were using a few years ago, they've blown up. They don't exist anymore. They've been exposed, they've been mismanaged. Nobody wants to use that, right? Typically, people don't buy the bottom because of fear. There's something that's happened that scares people. It's not easy. Everyone's scared. Statistically, right now, well, really, the day of the eclipse statistically, and even right now, at the time of this recording, Bitcoin's in the 16,000s. Statistically, it's one of the best times to buy in the long run. That is a fact that has no emotion tied to it, not the emotion of fear. How many people do you know that are non-emotionally buying Bitcoin right now? Exactly. Little to none, right? That's the power of emotion. By the way, that is not financial advice. FTX's blow up, because they were so big, is going to lead to what's called contagion. BlockFi is a company, for example, another centralized crypto on-ramp. They've paused withdrawals. You can't take your money off the platform. So again, all this stuff, like the contagion, the issues that have been caused by this eclipse, it could take until January to let the dust settle. And we may chop around until then. So when you have the second largest centralized company in crypto violate public trust like this, the implications that this has for further adoption of crypto is really unfortunate, because this isn't Bitcoin's fault. And so now, because many of us who don't really understand the difference between Bitcoin and the bad actors in the crypto space, decentralization and just the growth of crypto might be set back. Bitcoin is a true form of decentralized finance. It really lets you own and control value and send it anywhere around the world. It does this by providing a way for a large amount of people who basically don't trust each other to agree that, hey, this is the transaction that happened, without a need for a middleman like MasterCard or Visa or a government. Right? So this is why Bitcoin is open to anyone, and no one has the authority to change the rules. The rules, like scarcity and being open to all, they're in the tech, they're in the code. You can't just print more because you need to go to war or you need to bail out your friend's company. Right? That's why it was created. It was born with a very interesting Saturn-Uranus opposition in 2009, opposing globalization, opposing consolidation, opposing movement to bigger government and bigger businesses. Right? That's pretty much what we saw up until about 2009, and of course even after. But the point is that it was created during that opposition as the opposite to one central point of power. That's Bitcoin. Remember, Sam hates DeFi. Sam hates decentralized finance. And Sam and his company, more than anybody else in crypto, have been whispering into the ears of politicians and regulators about how the US should handle crypto. We're doing well. We're the experts. Let's tell you what's going on. Right. The potential depth of all of this fraud is mind-boggling. But oh wait, there's more. Sam's dad, an MIT professor where Sam went to school, wrote a paper on the importance of governments taxing income from things like Venmo, Uber, PayPal, crypto, taxing anything that's decentralized, basically. Check out this last line. This is a guy who was researching and has a love for how insights from social psychology might be used in the effort to reduce tax evasion. Social psychology, very interesting. Interesting family, interesting dad. So Sam's dad, Mr. Bankman, was working on new IRS tax filing systems. And we know what he was researching before, right? So this is why he got brought on, is to tax those things. He got brought on to create this filing system in 2008, the same year that Sam created FTX. Coincidence? Who knows? I don't know. But what's clear is that these are definitely pro-government, pro-regulation, anti-centralization thinking people with a love for taxes and social psychology. Oh, forgot to tell you about Sam's mom. As of the past few years, she runs political campaigns. When did she start doing that? What year? What's your guess? 2018? Yeah, good guess. Good guess. And she started with zero money. Right around the time her son started a crypto exchange, who also started with $0.
Last thing that I'll say is if you look at what precipitated some of the 2008 financial crisis, you saw a number of bilateral, bespoke, non-reported transactions happening between financial counterparties, which then got repackaged and releveraged again and again and again, such that no one knew how much risk was in that system until it all fell apart. If you compare that to what happens on FTX or other major cryptocurrency venues today, there's complete transparency about the full open interest. There's complete transparency about the positions that are held. There's a robust, consistent risk framework applied, and we're excited to work with the CFTC on our U.S. licensed and regulated venue to bring a lot of this.
This dude is just chilling in a room full of regulators with his up shoelaces just lying straight out of his face. Like he literally, to a room full of government regulators, explained why bad actors in 2008 screwed people over in the markets and said, we're not like that at all, and points the finger to other crypto companies and calls them unstable, and the whole damn time he's doing the exact same stuff as those companies did in 2008. It's mind-blowing. Oh, it's mind-blowing. And the problem is that these centralized exchanges, they're unstable. They blow up. It happens. 2008 happened. 2011 with a company called MF Global, it happened. 2020 it happened. But look, they have central bank money printers to back them up, and governments with taxing power, and big armies that can encourage you to imply and participate with the bailout, or else. These people, Sam and FTX, and whoever else he's connected to, funded people in government while engineering a solution that allows Gary Gensler, a man they're very close to regulate the daylights out of crypto, and maybe even kill decentralized finance altogether. And of course, Sam and his company were linked to our friends, our saviors, once again associated with all things good for humanity. Linda Fried, aunt of Sam Bankman-Fried, member of, here he is, crypto conference in the Bahamas this year in April. Big friends with political people, speaking at conferences, testifying, championing legislation that favored him and his business. Lobbyist. He's been at Washington at least once a month and spends half his time on regulatory matters and stealing your money. The other half, right? FTX is fine. Right? Yeah, sure. Biggest donors of the 2022 U.S. midterm elections. Man, this guy's got a lot of money. You're not gonna out-donate this man. But number two, look at that. None only than Sam Bankman-Fried. Jill Summers joins FTX U.S. Derivatives Board. This woman went from working with George Bush, Obama, the United States Senate, served as the commissioner of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. So you go from working with these names to working with FTX and Sam. Interesting. On and on it goes. So after they file for bankruptcy, they appoint their new CEO, John J. Ray III, who was brought in to clean up Enron 2 decades ago. I cannot make this stuff up, you guys. It's amazing. But wait, there's more. And I didn't know about this until I was about to upload the video. FTX and Sam, these guys were sued for fraud in 2019. Nobody talked about this? Do you think Gary Gensler knew this or didn't know about this? Sam Bankman-Fried, Alameda Research, FTX Trading, complaint for participating in racketeering, cryptocurrency market manipulation, price manipulation, negligence, fraud, civil conspiracy, and unfair business practices. Like, what the hell, man? 2019. And this has never... everyone has just looked at them as the darlings. They're making so much money. They're doing so great. They got sued a year after they started. Swept under the rug. They made more money than anybody else. And people literally thought that could only be done by being high IQ, MIT grad, on Adderall, staying up all night. And that's what everyone in crypto thought about these guys, not realizing that they were actually using every illegal edge and manipulation called out in this lawsuit. Do you think Gary Gensler knew and was just going to give them a pass? Was FTX just a money laundering scheme to fund and plant World Economic Forum people into U.S. politics and into the U.S. government? And look, just don't underestimate how serious people are about their goals, especially when they tell you to your face. Saturn, which represents government and authority figures and is ultimately a reductive effect when it comes to energy charts. Saturn's really strong where it's in the sky right now, in the sign of Aquarius, and that has to do with the people, it has to do with crypto and tech in general. And so with this trine energy to Mars, trines are harmonious, they give support, they make things flow easily, generally speaking. And Mars is like a tool or a weapon or a soldier that's going out there to exert willpower and achieve something or do something or get something or cut something off. It's a selfish oriented energy towards what you want. And so authority figures are going to try to bring harmony to the situation for the people as a reductive force, using the energy of Mars to cut off and to punish via laws and regulation, which is seen by Gemini, the sign that Mars is in currently. Gemini, as an area in the sky, is owned by the planet Mercury, which is in the sign of Sagittarius, which rules law, registration, legislation, and order and policy. And I don't want this aspect and anything that I described there to give people too much hopium or too much hope, let's say. If you have money on there and you haven't gotten it off yet, it's probably gone, unless you're in the Bahamas. I shouldn't even be talking about that. But what we can hope for is that maybe there's some sort of percentage or kickback at best. And I mean at best. I wouldn't count on that because of how nasty this eclipse is, to be honest with you. And hopefully at least there's some sort of clarity or justice. Maybe they capture Sam because he is on the run for fraud after all. And if they don't capture him, or if he gets away with this after especially everything that I've just mentioned in terms of his connections, that would be quite interesting. But that's only half the story. Because from an astrological perspective, while Saturn trine Mars can give us the energy to correct a mistake, which is really what's at play here, Mars is still being squared by Neptune. And so there's still confusion, because these are the things that Neptune can bring about in terms of energy. There's still confusion and there's still loss that can't be found. Neptune is like the depths of all the oceans on the planet in terms of energy and getting lost. Square Mars and Gemini, that's like packages lost at sea. It's like bad Neptune aspects are like sailing in the fog or like driving in bad weather. You don't, it can feel like you don't quite know where we're going. And a lot of people would tell you that's how they feel about crypto. You don't quite know where this is going. They think that a lot of people after this event are done altogether. Mars retrograde looks like it's moving backwards to us from Earth. Gemini rules things like commerce and trade because it's about how we communicate with our outside world and how we exchange and communicate with people. That's why, stated a bit differently, the solution that comes from government as a result from Saturn trine Mars is likely to, unfortunately, set the entire crypto industry back in some ways because of the retrograde motion and the square from Neptune. That's what the astrology tells us. So what I think we'll see is governments like the US or authority figures in the media in general seemingly trying to correct mistakes, and we're likely going to see some progress, but they're not going to see everything clearly. You're not going to see everything clearly due to confusion, due to not having all the facts, or maybe they're the ones having or causing the confusion. Both there's going to be regulators who are confused, there's going to be regulators who are trying to help, and there's going to be those that are linked in with Sam and FTX that are going to cover their bases, cover their ass, and just take care of them. So, if, and I mean if, because I said I'm going to let you fill in the blanks, if this conspiracy that's been pieced together by just bringing together facts, I'm not piecing together a conspiracy, I'm just pulling together facts that aren't being shared with you, because they should be shared with you. If what is being implied, I should say, is real, and that's what's actually the case, then that means FTX literally was a Trojan horse to bring down crypto and to bring in regulation. Either way, it's going to take some time for us to fully see things clearly because of these Neptunian Mars aspects. It's going to make for one hell of a movie one day because Neptune rules all the big movies. So what do you think? Was this a controlled demolition of the crypto markets from the very beginning? Or is this just one of the world's most talented traders going too big, too hard in a world where the financial liquidity was pulled out of the market and he got exposed, which does happen every time market downturns happen? What do you think? Was this a controlled demolition of the crypto markets from the very beginning? Is this all just a coincidence? Or is this a pit full of political fraud that goes much deeper? I'm curious. Let me know what you think in the comments. Look, all currencies are up for change. And if you want to know what's coming so that you can prepare, then you have to know what's happening to the dollar and to gold, which I'll be covering in a video that I'll link when it's posted. You stay safe out there. And before you continue the rest of your day, I just want to remind you to collect cash in a safe place that you can access and touch your money. Taurus, in your hand, touch. With that, be well, one love. Peace.